I'm glad you're here. Come on in, have a seat. This week I want to talk about creating a personal learning space. And in chapter 15 of The Place Advantage, Augustine focuses on the psychology of learning environments, and I want to really expand on that. And I'll be honest with you, I've been doing this, what I'm about to share with you, I've been doing this for years, and it really works. This is highly effective. You can create a personal learning space. Now, what do I mean by that? It's a dedicated space in your home just for learning. And what you're able to do, and I'll show you how, you can condition yourself to your space using classical conditioning. And what that'll do is you'll become highly focused in this space, and it'll increase not only your effectiveness, but it'll increase your efficiency as well. You know, I once had a student told me that she said every time she tried to read the text, she ended up falling asleep. And, you know, I asked her, I said, well, where are you doing your reading? And she says, well, I read in bed late at night after I have everything done and the kids are in bed and all of that. And so I told her, I said, well, look, the problem is through classical conditioning, you're conditioned when you lay down in your bed, you're conditioned to go to sleep. And so you're doing exactly what you were conditioned to do. When you try to read laying in bed, it doesn't work very well because it's difficult to stay awake because you're supposed to go to sleep. Not only that, if you think about it, there's a relationship between our posture that we use while studying and the posture we use when we're trying to recall the information from that period where we were studying. So, for example, if you were going to be tested on information in a book, most of the time you're going to be sitting at a desk or at a table with paper and pencil. And so what you want to do is you want to study, or you want to put the information in using that same posture, and then that way the posture facilitates recall. For example, one of the worst things kids can do, and I've seen kids a lot of times, they'll get a book from school and they'll lay down on the floor in front of a TV and try to study, and it's the worst condition possible. Number one, they're laying down. Number two, the TV's a distraction. And then when they go to school, they're going to be sitting down in a formal position when they're tested. So it just doesn't work well. Now, what I want to do is, number one, you have to create a personal learning space. So, for example, you can see I'm sitting in my personal learning space now, and it's a dedicated room. It has a desk. You can see you can see one wall. I've got two walls of bookshelves, and they're full of books, and so I don't do anything but study here. Now, some techniques that aid study. One is music, or if you find music distracting, white noise. And white noise, there are internet sites now that produce white noise. You just Google white noise, and it'll come up. The best music to play, and you would want to play it softly in the background, but the best music is from the Baroque classical music era, or if you don't like classical music, try New Age music, because it tends to be paced and similar to Baroque music. 1 beat per second is ideal. The reason why that's ideal is that it facilitates alpha waves in the brain, which is good for retention. The music should not have vocals. For the majority of people, vocals are a distraction, so it should be instrumental only. It should not be entertaining, and what I mean by entertaining, don't play the music that you normally would listen to when you want to be entertained, because that's a distraction as well. I personally, I like Pandora or iTunes Radio because you can customize stations. Number one, they're free, and you can customize stations and use them where they play the same type of music in that station. So both of those are good. Now, now the next technique, and by the way, if music or sound in the background is complete distraction no matter what to you, and it is to some people, then that's fine. Then go a quiet environment. If your dedicated space can't be quiet, then try wearing headphones with no sound just to block out the noise. Now the next thing that I want to talk about, and this is a powerful technique, very few people know about it. It's called the ultradian cycle. It's a biological cycle. And it was discovered by Rossi. He reported on it in 1986. And what it does, it's a cycle that regulates the rhythm between the hemispheres of the brain, and it operates on approximately a 90-minute cycle throughout the day. You have to experiment to find how long your cycle runs. Condon referred to it as the cycle of alertness, and so I'll explain how we can use this. This cycle is also observed in the breathing cycle, so checking your breathing can be a way to monitor the cycle. The easiest way to monitor this is when you happen to notice a mental drift or fatigue. Now, what do I mean by this? You're in your learning space, you're studying, and you're reading, and suddenly you have the realization that you don't remember anything you read. You were daydreaming. That's called a mental drift, and what that is, that's a sign that your cycle's shifting the lead from one side of the brain to the other. And another one could be where you're sitting there and you're just annoyed to the point that you don't think you can take it anymore. That's a sign of the shift as well. Now, what most people do, incorrectly so, they silently reprimand themselves, and they go in and try to focus even harder. And what that does, that actually prolongs the drift, so it delays their ability to attend to reading or whatever it is you're doing. So what do you need to do? You need to literally take a break. Stop your reading, get up out of your chair, take a break. Rossi recommends 20 minutes. I've learned I don't need that much. For me, 5-10 minutes is all I need. I'll walk to the kitchen and get a glass of water, or I'll go use the bathroom, then get a glass of water, or go gaze out the windows so I can see nature. And after 10 minutes, I'm ready to go back to work. Now, when I go back in, I'm now mentally alert and highly focused for the next 90 minutes. And that's the key. You want to be able to stay focused for the entire time that you need in order to complete your study. Now, I talked about checking your breathing as a way, so let me describe that to you. In the brain, the left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, and the right hemisphere controls the left side of the body. So what you can do, one way to check is you can just place a finger by your nose and breathe in. And what I'm trying to determine, one side of my nose will be more open than the other. Now, right now, my left side is more open, meaning that I'm in a right brain cycle. And so you can actually check which brain cycle you're in, and by doing that, you can experiment using this ultradian cycle. Like for example, if I'm in a right brain cycle, maybe I want to do a creative project right now. If I'm in a left brain cycle, maybe I want to do something that's more deliberate. Okay, so in experimenting with this cycle, noticing your cycle, and you can cause what's called a reflexive shift. All you have to do is, if you lay on one side, you'll open the side of the nose that's facing up, meaning that you'll open the side of the brain that you're laying on. So that's how you could manipulate it. I don't really worry so much about manipulation as I try to be mindful about when I'm having a shift. Because when that cycle shifts, that's when you lose your concentration, and that's when you need to take a break. And by doing that, you can literally extend your ability to concentrate over long periods of time. And by experimenting with this, you can find how much time you need for your break time. I've found that practicing this over time increases your attention span, where you can really attend mindfully for long periods. And it'll help you to manage your study sessions, and that's the primary goal. Now, I want to add another technique to this that you can do, and it's classical conditioning. We've all studied classical conditioning in psychology, so why don't we try using it on ourselves to get a positive result? Now that you're in your learning space, you're practicing the ultradian cycles so that you're highly focused. Next thing you want to do, you want to condition yourself to be focused in that space. And what I recommend is use an aroma in your personal space, like a scented candle or an essential oil. Here's you can see that's a bottle of essential oil that I use, and I particularly use a unique smell. Now the reason for that, you use a unique smell because you don't want it to be confused with common smells around the house. Like, for example, I have a lemon cleaner, so I wouldn't use the smell of lemon, because in that way when I go to use my lemon scent cleaner, it would confuse my conditioning to my learning space. So I use a smell. I use eucalyptus because I don't have a eucalyptus smell anywhere else, and so it doesn't confuse my conditioning. So when I smell the eucalyptus scent, right away I get highly focused in my space. So I sit down in my space, I smell the scent, boom, I'm focused, I'm ready to go, and I don't waste any time. So I'm conditioned to be focused when I enter this space, and that's what you can do too. Now, you don't have to use essential oil and a diffuser. Scented candles work well. Sometimes I'll use a scented candle. For me, I like the essential oil better because the air doesn't get as heavy as a scented candle does. And not only that, eucalyptus seems to open up my my nose more. So classical conditioning is important. Now, I've had asked students to tell me, hey, what if practices? Tell me what you get, and I want to show you what some former students have said. Here you can see Kathy said, I'm now able to effectively focus and bring the focus into being rather than having to wait for it to arrive. I really like that. She's conditioned in her space. Denny has said, I'm now able to study better, set better goals, and it outlines for my assignments. Says, my time management skills improved, and I'm a better student and lifelong learner. John said, I study more effectively and am more organized. I now focus more efficiently and effectively. Matter of fact, I remember John, he actually told me he was able to cut he had certain dates through the week that he studies. He actually was able to cut one study session off and spend that time with family because he was so effective in his study sessions. Marlene said, developing a personal learning strategy has helped me in my school life and personal life. I wish I would have done this at the beginning of my studies. So that was a good point. Imagine, not only doing this in your personal learning space, but you could do this in your workspace as well, and increase effectiveness at work. Also, this would be a good message to employers. If they would allow employees to honor these breaks, they would actually increase productivity by giving them the ability to take breaks when their cycles shift. So here's what I'm encouraging you to try is think about your personal space at home. If you don't have one, number one, create one. If you don't have a room or a place, then set up your kitchen table where you can create personal space for study. Um, in other words, use use a scent. Um, Set up your computer and lay everything out so that when you sit down and see it, you know, okay, it's not eating space, it's study space. You can still do that. If you're stuck in using a bedroom and you don't have room for a desk, use the top of the bed as a desktop and pull a chair in so you're sitting with good posture in a chair, and use the bed top as your desktop. This would still be an improvement, and it could be a dedicated space. Make sure there's no TV or radio around. You don't want that distraction. Um, Same way with family members. If need be, use a headset to block out sounds. Try this out. I think you're going to find that it'll improve your efficiency, your effectiveness, and your retention, and you'll start to remember content much better. I've got, in references, I use the text by Augustine. Also, I've got the reference for Condon and Rossi, and I'll post a transcript of this as well. Thank you.